Tanya.
All right.
Um, no, Barbara's here. Great. Okay. We are in the midst of chapter 36. Firstly, tonight's class is sponsored Le'ilu Nishmat Shlomo Noach ben Alter Avram Yaakov
Mhm.
on his fifth yahrzeit this Thursday night and Friday by his daughter, Sarah Lorenz. Sarah, may the neshama of your father, Shlomo Noach, have the highest aliyah, ascent on high, and may he draw down blessings for his entire family, specifically for you, Sarah, your brother, your children. I'm sure that he is deriving so much nachas from all of you, from your commitment to Jewish education, to Torah study, and to good deeds. And I know he's so proud of you. So thank you for this meaningful sponsorship. I also have to point out that it's really because of Sarah's father that we even have this Tanya class. Because 5 years ago, when Sarah's father passed away, someone had reached out to me if I that they wanted to do a Tanya class in memory of Sarah's father. I had never taught Tanya in this kind of format before, so this was new. It was during COVID. They're like, "Oh, let's do a Zoom Tanya class." And we did. I don't remember, Sarah, how many times we met, maybe 3 times or 4 times. And after that, Sarah and I studied Tanya for a little while, and then eventually, there were other people who also wanted to join and study Tanya, so it kind of evolved into this class. But really, our entire Tanya study very much is thanks to Sarah in memory of her father. So this is very special.
Thank you.
Tonight, sorry,
Thank you.
of course. Anything else you want to share, Sarah?
Uh, the irony of 36 being twice high.
Right. Well, this
And
is
he had a notice from the KKK, speaking of Harriet, when he moved with his family. So it's nothing new, unfortunately. Anti-Semitism has been here for a while, and unfortunately, it's not going to go anywhere, but it's nothing new for us.
Tonight is also the 24th of Tevet, which is the yahrzeit of the author of the Tanya himself. Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi's yahrzeit is tonight. He's known as Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, or the Baal HaTanya, or the Alter Rebbe. In the merit of us learning on his yahrzeit, may we all be blessed with all of the blessings that come from being connected to such a holy soul, and may we keep being inspired to learn and grow as Jewish women. And I think it would be appropriate to share a story about him in honor of his yahrzeit. This is a very famous story about Rabbi Shneur Zalman. He was a very, very well-known rabbi with a tremendous following. And one year, on the night of Yom Kippur, the holiest night of the year, he was standing in the front of his synagogue, wrapped in a prayer shawl, ready to start the Yom Kippur davening. And people came from far and wide to join, to be in his synagogue for Yom Kippur and to hear him lead the prayers. There were, deep melodies and tremendous fervor. And he's, beginning the prayers, and suddenly he stops. They see Rabbi Shneur Zalman stop. He removes his prayer shawl and he walks out of shul. So you can imagine that a bunch of people walked after him to see where's the rabbi going. He walked to the edge of town, on the outskirts of the town, in a small, dark little house, where standing outside they heard the cries of a newborn. There was a young mother who had just given birth, and she and her baby were alone. Hi, Sally. She and her baby were alone in the in the house, and there was no one to take care of them. And on Yom Kippur had already started. Rabbi Shneur Zalman um, put up a fire. He lit a fire in the fireplace. He took a pot. He cooked a soup. He served the soup to the mother. He took care of her and her little baby until they were okay. And then he left. He turned around. He walked back to the synagogue. He's put his prayer shawl back on, and he continued to lead the services. And it was obviously an extremely powerful lesson to his followers and anyone who heard the story after that, that no matter how high and how deep your devotion and how spiritual of the moment, there is nothing more important than stopping and helping someone else in need. And actually, the Lubavitch Rebbe pointed out that you notice in the story, it's recorded that he removed his prayer shawl before he went to help the woman. And the Rebbe said that this is symbolic of the idea that when you need to help, when someone needs your help, you need to remove your prayer shawl. You need to leave and step out of your world and step into that person's world and help them with whatever they need. It's very, when you're, when you're, so to speak, wearing your prayer shawl, you're like in your own space. It's very hard to really see someone else for who they are and for what they need. So removing that is almost like stepping into their shoes for a little bit, seeing what it is that they need, and then stepping out when it's time to come back. So that is, um, how did Rabbi Shneur Zalman know that the family was in need? Well, he never told us, but we do know that he was an extremely high soul, so he saw things that other people didn't see. So there's a good chance that he was just aware in spiritual ways of what was going on, but we don't really know how. Okay, coming back to Tanya. So in the middle of chapter 36, we're talking about purpose of creation. What are we doing here? What is the purpose of our endless struggle? I heard an example that resonated. Say there's a soldier that's going to war, and the soldier comes and, shows up to if part of the reserves or whatever he's coming to the front lines. Imagine if the soldier was not given any background about what this war is. Like, who's this enemy we're fighting? What goals we're trying to reach? Nothing. He's just told, here, take your gun, shoot, hit these targets. A soldier can do it. But when the soldier has a little bit of background and knows what the war is about and what role he or she is playing, they could do it with a lot more passion and a lot more excitement. And they're really much more into it when they understand what's going on. There's a big piece about, building the morale of the army and of the soldiers. So similarly, we're in a battle. We wake up every morning, every day is a battle. Life's a battle. It's hard work. We're trying to, do things and accomplish, and we're told, yeah, we have all these mitzvahs and all these things we need to do. So it's very hard to be passionate and excited about Judaism and about the mitzvahs when there's no context. Like, what's the point? Who cares? Why does God care if I, eat my meat 5 hours after I had dairy? Sorry, eat my dairy 5 hours after I had meat or 6 hours after I had meat? Like, what does he care? What's the difference? What does he care if I shake this kind of branch or that kind of branch on Sukkot? And what does he care if I do the Seder on the night that it's supposed to be, or if I do it a night later or a night earlier? When we have some context to what's the point of everything, when we can kind of zoom out and see the bigger picture, it gives us a lot more passion and excitement, and it gives us context and we understand what's going on. And that's kind of what these chapters are aiming to do and trying to help us understand what's the point, what's the goal, where are we trying to get to, what's considered success and what's considered, not success. So last time, the beginning of the chapter 36, we explained in a way, you can almost call it two Judaisms, really. There is my Judaism, the Judaism where I say, I want to engage in this because I want to be spiritually refined. I want to be connected. I want to feel uplifted. I want to be inspired. I want to have a meaningful life. That's my approach to Judaism. Here, take me, connect me, draw me higher, right? That's the feeling that we come to Judaism with. And chapter 36 tells us you should know that actually God has a very different view on Judaism. God's Judaism is, I want to come down, he tells us. I want you to draw me down into your world. I want to be revealed down there. And it's interesting because if I approach Judaism where it's about where, from my perspective, I want to be inspired, I want to be connected, I want to do something that's so moving and uplifting, really, I'm serving myself, right? I'm doing whatever it is that will make me feel inspired. If I want to truly serve God, I have to do it on his terms. I need to understand what is it that he wants. So yeah, it might feel very nice for me to, if I, there are people who say, you hear a lot of different stories, but let's say I'll say Seder doesn't talk to me. I don't, the matzah, the wine, I just don't get inspired. I'd rather sit with my good friend. We're gonna sing some old songs that we remember from when we were little, all our Passover songs. We'll sing our hearts out, and that will be the most inspiring Passover night for us. So, from when I look at it from my perspective, yeah, it's very inspiring. It's cool. I like this kind of Judaism. But if I look at the big picture and I'm trying to understand the strategy, that's not, that was never God's purpose or intent. God says, I have a very specific purpose. I want you to bring me down there. And there's a very specific recipe, a very specific way in which I want you to draw me down. So what's God's purpose then, right? What is it that he wants? Why does he care to be drawn down? It's interesting. If you think about it for a second, let's say you were God and the whole world doesn't exist, right? It's just you alone before creation. How would you demonstrate that nothing exists outside of God? So you are God, you fill up the entire everything. It's all you, there's nothing else. How do you show that you're the only existence? You could probably do one of two things. Either you could just do nothing and you continue to be the only existence, or you can create a world that attempts to conceal you and then demonstrate that actually that concealment is not a real concealment. And look at that. Even this world doesn't conceal me. In a way, that's kind of what God does with creation. He says, I am the only existence. I would like to demonstrate that even when I create a world with the greatest concealment, I am going to make a world that leaves no trace. I started using this line with my kids. We went to a park and, they have these signs all over, leave no trace, like collect all your trash, all your things. So I started telling my kids when they want to bring food into the car, I'm like, you could bring food into the car, leave no trace. I don't want to find crumbs. I don't want to find wrappers. I don't want to know that anyone ate in this car, right? God says, I'm creating a world that leaves no trace. You look around this world, you don't see godliness. You see that what's important is money, success, fame, vacations, houses, whatever it is. Godliness does not seem to be on the list. You don't see spirituality and godliness in the world. We see a very coarse world. And God says, this is the world that I'm creating. I'm going to make sure that I'm not seen in it. And now I want you to reveal me in it. I want you to reveal that I am in there too. I want you to kind of break open the shell, shine the light, show that it's really all me. That's my goal in creation. God said, this is what I want. We can never understand why God wants what he wants, but this is what God tells us. This is what I want, and this is why I am creating this universe for you. Now you're on a mission to reveal me in your world. And this also helps us understand why there's so many details involved. Because God tells us exactly how we can reveal him in this world. He wants us to utilize the physical, mundane world. He wants us to use the power of action to reveal him. There's a Hasidic teaching that says that if you have a building and you want to lift the building, where are you going to lift it from? Well, the lower you lift it from, the better chance you have at lifting the whole building, right? You try to take a forklift and stick it in the middle, you're only going to lift up half the building. You're going to destroy it. But if you actually dig under the building and get to the very bottom and you lift it, you'll have the greatest success at lifting the building. So in trying to reveal godliness in this mundane world, it's almost like the lower we go, the better we're doing. The deeper I go into this physical, mundane world, and the more I interact with the darkness of the world and uplift it and shine it and show that it's really all godliness, the more I am fulfilling God's purpose in all of creation. This is why action, we said Judaism is a religion of action, more than inspiration or thought, because action is where it's at. Action is kind of the lowest, the most external expression that we can have. Um, Learning and thoughts are all in our mind. Vast majority of the mitzvahs are not about thoughts and feelings. Vast majority are action based. It's actually a very interesting teaching I read. We say that the mitzvahs are how we fulfill God's will, and God wants us to fulfill mitzvahs through action. So, for example, when we pray, we're supposed to be moving our lips and saying the prayers out loud, even if it's not out loud for the person next to me to hear, but it has to be, um, my prayers need to be audible, at least for my own ears to hear, so that there's kind of like a physical component to the prayers. I learned a very interesting teaching of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, actually, that he was trying to explain. What about the mitzvahs that are done through thought, right? There's mitzvahs of, serving one God, not believing in other gods. There are certain mitzvahs that are contained in our thought. How are those actionable mitzvahs? And the Rebbe was quoting modern science, that through modern science, scientists have actually been able to prove that thought, the process of thought, creates specific creases in the brain. So Rebbe was showing that today we can understand that even the thought mitzvahs actually do have a physical manifestation in the world. So I thought that was very powerful. And we know the same as with emotion mitzvahs. When you love, it's not just theoretical. There's actually something on some level that's felt physically when you love. So the love of God and the awe of God and the love of your fellow Jew, even those mitzvahs have a physical manifestation, but vast majority of mitzvahs are extremely, extremely physical. So this is all things that we discussed last time, and we touched upon this last time, but second part of chapter 36 really goes into it, and chapter 37 like really, goes even deeper into it. And that is, where are we going with all of this? We're saying that we're trying to reveal godliness in this world. And then what, right? Where are we heading to? And that's when we start talking, and the Tanya here starts talking about the future redemption. Now, some people are uncomfortable with this concept. Mashiach, a Messiah in Judaism, is not even a Jewish concept. What is this idea of a future redemption? Is that like maybe some ultra-Orthodox, obsession? Could we do Judaism without thinking and talking about things that just sound, strange and unusual? Yes, Arlene.
I'm having a hard time understanding the thoughts that you just expressed. So God created us, the world, so that we would be a vehicle to expose godliness. To whom? If I am bringing godliness into this world by lighting Shabbos candles, to whom am I exposing it? I would think it would be more like if you do good things to so others will see that there is a vast godliness as opposed to just the dismal. Yeah, I guess I
That's an excellent question. I'm so happy that you brought that up. I'm going to explain some of it, and you'll see how some of it ties into the rest of this chapter. Who are we showing the godliness to? God wants this world with the goal we stated last time is la'asot lo dira betachtonim, to make for God a dwelling place in the lowest realm. So God wants us to transform this world into a world that doesn't hide godliness, but reveals godliness. The ultimate purpose is that this world should be a place where godliness is abound, where nothing covers up godliness, where all the darkness that we see shouldn't be seen. We should look around and we should see holiness, spirituality. I should look at the sidewalk and I should see sparks of godliness. Everything around me, everything that I look at, I should see the holiness in it in a way that's more revealed even than currently exists in the higher worlds. How's that possible? And how does that happen through the mitzvahs that we do? Those are very important questions that we're going to start answering now and is answered now and in chapter 37. A few questions. Firstly, Jews have been doing mitzvahs for thousands of years. I'm not seeing any more revelation of godliness in the world. So what exactly is going on? When is this revelation happening. The other question is, if you've been following Tanya for a few chapters, we said that the last time God tried to reveal godliness to people was at Mount Sinai, and we couldn't handle it. It was like way too much, right? The Jews all fainted, and they're like, please, Moses, you speak to us instead. We can't handle this. It's too powerful. So if we're limited human beings, how can we even see? Like, you're telling me I'll be able to look around and see God? Like, that's hard to comprehend. So the Tanya actually breaks it down in a lot of detail. But for starters, the second half of chapter 36 tells us what the goal is. What the Tanya is telling us is everything we're doing is leading us towards a goal. The ultimate goal is the future redemption, sometimes known as Olam Haba, sometimes referred to Yemot HaMashiach. There are many different phrases used for it, but we are going to reach a point sooner than we think in which it's payday. And on payday, God says all of the work that we've done, suddenly the lights will go on. And then you'll be able to see that godliness that you drew down when you lit Shabbat candles. You didn't see the godliness. It's there. You drew down godliness. You refine the world, but you're not seeing it yet. But when this payday happens, suddenly you'll be like, wow, that's the light of the Shabbat candles that I lit last week. And that's the light of the candles I lit the week before. And that's the light that my mother lit. And that's the light that my grandmother lit. We'll be able to see the effects of everything we've done, not only in our lifetime, but in the entire time since creation, since people started doing mitzvahs, even before we became a Jewish nation. So sometimes when we talk about the future redemption, it's spoken of as like this, this like carrot that's being dangled for us, for all your efforts, one day you're going to get this prize. And here the Tanya explains, no, the ultimate redemption is actually going to be the sum total of all of our actions being revealed. If every single action is revealing godliness in this world, when we have finished revealing godliness in the world, and now God could turn the lights on, that's when we know that we have reached our ultimate goal. And it's seen, I probably mentioned this before, but I'm going to share, you see it in the actual Hebrew words for exile and redemption. So the word for exile is gola, sometimes referred to as galut, but it's also gola. Gola is exile. Geula is redemption. Notice, if you look at the Hebrew letters, gola and geula, they're almost identical. The coming of Mashiach, the future redemption, is not some crazy apocalypse, like some crazy movie of some, scary time that's going to happen and we don't know what it's going to look like. It's going to be exactly the same world that you know, except notice that the word for redemption, geula, has an extra aleph in it. Aleph represents godliness. Alufo shel olam. As soon we're going to have a regular world, but godliness will be revealed. You'll have the same, like we'll still be humans. We'll still have houses. We'll still interact with other people in a very normal way. But godliness will be revealed in everything. We're going to look around and we're going to understand. We're going to see the purpose of everything. We're going to see the light of everything. And anything that doesn't, hi Lorraine, anything that doesn't reveal godliness won't be here. There's going to be such clarity that is going to be expressed in the coming of Mashiach, which is kind of what we're building up to with all of this. Sorry, I just wanted to pull up my... Okay, I wanted to actually read it inside, but before we read it inside, one more thing that you're going to see that Tanya is going to mention. The Tanya mentions a story of the last time that God tried revealing himself to the people, and the people fainted, right? It's recorded that, well, firstly, this is actually coming up in the Parsha in a few weeks. What happened at Mount Sinai? It says, if you read the text, it says they saw the thunder and they heard the lightning. And all the commentaries say, what? Saw the thunder and heard the lightning? How's that possible? And the Kabbalah explains that saw the thunder means they saw things that aren't usually seen. The Jewish people at Mount Sinai, they saw godliness. They like the godliness, it's not usually seen. It was seen. They looked around and they saw godliness and they felt godliness. It was such a tremendous revelation, but ultimately they couldn't handle it. And so they fainted. And it says that God revived them. And then God spoke again and they fainted again and God revived them again. And then eventually they said, please, Moses, you say the rest of it. We can't handle it. What did God use to revive them? We're told that God used tal, dew. God took dew, he sprinkled it upon the people, and that's what woke them up. And Kabbalah explains that that dew is Torah, because Torah is also compared to dew. It's one of the descriptions given to Torah. We say Torah is water, and Torah is compared to different types of bodies of water. The dew, the water of Torah, is something that was able to wake them up. In the future redemption, when we're going to face this tremendous revelation, we will be able to handle it. You know why? Because we have spent all these years immersed in this dew of Torah. At Mount Sinai, they had never studied Torah before. So Torah was something new to them. But studying Torah refines us and not just refines, it fortifies us and the world around us so that we could handle godly revelation. So in the ultimate redemption, when we're going to experience this tremendous revelation, we will be able to handle it. Not just us, the entire world will be able to handle it. It says, and the Tanya is going to quote different verses where it says, God will be revealed to all, not just the Jewish people. The entire world will see and feel godliness. And it's our duty as the Jewish nation to immerse ourselves in this dew, to study it, to teach it, because when we study Torah, it's not just me in my little house studying Torah. I am refining the world and making the people of this world able to eventually experience this tremendous revelation that's coming towards us. So this is, in a nutshell, what the rest of chapter 36 is talking about, but I would like to read it inside because it's really special inside. After that, we'll stop for questions and we'll see if we have time to continue because chapter 36 begins it. Chapter 37 really elaborates even more. Okay, so I'm in the middle of chapter 36 here. It is known that the Messianic era, especially the period after the resurrection of the dead. So those who have studied about the Messianic era, we're told it's going to come in stages. It's not just, again, poof, one day we wake up and there's like lightning and thunder and some crazy world. It will come in stages. The world says we're going to see refinement of the world that will happen slowly and in stages. And then we're going to reach a point where we rebuild the temple in Jerusalem and where the Jewish people will all be united. And then we're going to reach an additional era afterwards that will be the resurrection of the dead, which is like the ultimate, when the world has reached its, ultimate spiritual high. Is indeed the ultimate purpose and the fulfillment of creation of this world. It is for this purpose that the world was originally created. So unlike, again, like some people might think, like, what does the future redemption have to do with it? Can I be Jewish and do mitzvahs and not think about the redemption? Maimonides, actually, whose yahrzeit was last week, Maimonides in his 13 Principles of Faith states that one of the basic tenets of our belief system is A, the belief in the future redemption, and B, the belief in the resurrection of the dead, which will be in part of the future redemption. Because this, if you zoom out, this sums up the whole total of creation. The whole idea of us doing mitzvahs is to fulfill the purpose for which the world was created. And if the world was created for a purpose, there has to be a goal. Like there has to be a place we're trying to get to. At first glance, this statement appears strange. One would have thought that the Messianic era represents not the purpose of creation, but a reward for man's efforts, right? We think, oh, it's like some prize we're going to get. But no, the Alter Rebbe clarifies. The time of receiving the reward is essentially the 7th millennium, as is stated in Likutei Torah of the Arizal, whereas the period until then constitutes the fulfillment of the world's purpose. So in general, Kabbalah teaches us that God created 7. It's compared to the 7 days of the week. So there are 7,000 years that the 7th millennia, the 7,000, meaning after when we reach the year 6,000 and we enter the 7th millennia, that is already the future redemption. Now, we're not necessarily waiting till we hit that point. It is possible for us to usher it in quicker through our deeds, but we are given like a timeline that is, ultimately, if all else fails, that's definitely when we will hit the future redemption. So a glimmer of this revelation, which will take place in the future, has already been experienced at the time of the giving of the Torah at Sinai. As it is written, you have been shown to know that God is the Lord, there is nothing else besides him. These are words that we say in our prayers all the time. We say, you have revealed yourself, indicating that the revelation that we had was in a manner that was in physical sight. We say this in our prayers all the time. All these phrases on the right that are being translated, we say, God, you revealed yourself to us. You showed yourself to us. This is all referencing the time where we stood at Sinai and we saw these revelations. So it is written, all the people saw the thunder. They saw what is not normally seen, what is normally heard. As the rabbis explained, they looked eastward and they heard the divine speech issuing forth, saying, I am the Lord your God. And so too, turning to all 4 points of the compass, and above and below, they heard the words coming from all directions. When the Jews stood at Sinai, it wasn't just that they stood and it was like, God making some announcements. They experienced tremendous godly revelation that has never been experienced before and has never been experienced since. But it will be experienced in the future. I'm going to skip a few lines here. Therefore, they, the Jews who stood at Sinai, were nullified out of existence. As the sages have said, at every divine utterance, their souls took flight from their bodies. They couldn't handle it. They couldn't be physical humans in physical bodies and experience this like otherworldly godly revelation. They just couldn't handle it. But God restored it to them with the dew, with which he will revive the dead in the world to come. This is the dew of Torah, which is called might. The Torah provides a strength that enables us to receive divine revelation without dissolving out of existence, as is explained above in reference to the reward of tzaddikim in the world to come. So then, when the course in the future redemption, when the coarseness of the world will be refined, we'll be able to receive the revelation of God's light that will shine forth over Israel by the means of Torah, which is called might. Because we have spent all this time studying Torah, we will have the fortification necessary to handle the light that we will experience. Through the superabundance of light which will shine upon the Jewish people, the darkness of the nations will also be lit up. As it is written, the nations will walk by your light. This is referencing the idea that we are able to bring light in the future redemption. We are, through our Torah study and our deeds, we're going to enable this light to be experienced by the entire world. It is also written that the nations will say to the Jewish people, House of Jacob, go, and we will walk along by the light of God. And again, the glory of God will be revealed and all flesh will see. And it gives us many, many more phrases in which we're told how the light will be experienced by the entire world during the coming of Mashiach. So this concludes chapter 36, but it makes me think of this idea. Many of us have heard the term Or LaGoyim, a light to the nations. And some people, when they try to understand what does it mean the Jewish people need to be a light unto the nations, oh, we need to be, role models of, how to take care of this earth. Yeah, that too. But when we speak of Kabbalah and we study the depth of what the Torah tells us, the Torah tells us we as a light unto the nations, we have the duty and the job of bringing God's light onto the entire world and making it available for all the nations. And we can do that exclusively as a chosen people through studying the Torah and through doing the commandments. And in this way, we're ushering in this ultimate redemption when the culmination of all of our efforts will shine forth and we will see what we have done. It's like, imagine you're piecing together a puzzle and the puzzle pieces are upside down, so you only see the back. So you have all these pieces and you have to figure out, how all the pieces match. And it's pretty hard, but eventually you piece it together. And now all your pieces are together. You say, ready? Now that the puzzle's all together, now we can flip it over and see what we've created. We flip it over and it's like, wow, what an incredible picture we put together. While we do mitzvahs in this lifetime, it's a little bit like we're working in the dark. We're told that we're drawing down light. We're told that we're revealing godliness in the world. We don't necessarily see it. But in the coming redemption, we'll be able to see the sum total of all of our work And then it'll be like the lights went on. And actually, there are many teachings that tell us that during the future redemption, we will miss the days of exile. It's like, what? Miss the day? Who's going to miss the days of having, people being sick and people fighting and, nations at war with each other? But the Hasidic teachings explain that what we're going to miss? Of course, we're not going to miss the bad. We're going to miss the ability to do mitzvahs. We're going to be then at the time where we have reached the goal. All the light will be here. They'll be like, remember when we had that incredible ability to do a mitzvah and shine a light? Ah, I miss having that ability. We won't have that ability because the lights will all be on. There's going to be no darkness left to illuminate with our light. So this is what chapter 36 comes to tell us. Now, it's interesting, the Tanya doesn't just leave this as a, nice esoteric idea. It actually really breaks it down into detail. In chapter 37, we're basically starting with questions of, all right, okay, so now explain to me, it all sounds really nice. How does it work? How do we, you and I, the women in the Zoom, how are we supposed to be able to kind of go through every element of creation and reveal the light in it? How does it work? I mean, there are places we never get to. There are things we don't get to do. Like, how is it that we can put this whole puzzle together? And chapter 37 really is going to start breaking down how we've touched upon it before, but it goes into much more detail here, really showing us how everything that we do is really touching upon so many elements within creation. So, for example, you might think, if you don't study this, and you study about the laws of, let's say, saying blessings on food, you might say, okay, what kind of God do we have that he needs me to bless him every single time I touch a cup of water to my lips? I mean, God, like, it's okay. I could acknowledge you in the morning, and if you need, also in the evening, but so many times throughout the day, I need to say, blessed are you, Lord our God. Like, it's okay. Like, we get the point. But when you study this, you realize, one second, every time I'm holding a cup of water, God says, when I make the blessing on the water, what am I doing? I'm saying, blessed are you, Lord our God, who created everything, including this water. At this moment, I am recognizing and acknowledging that this water comes from God. In that moment, I have been able to elevate and illuminate the spark of godliness that's in this water. Not just in the water, also everything that was involved in bringing this cup of water to my lips. So I'm holding a cup. This cup was manufactured in some kind of manufacturing plant. I was just able to reveal the godliness in that manufacturing plant. I pay the bill to get the water to come to my house. The money, that comes from, money that I earned. Now, the money that I earned on that day or in that week also gets elevated because I am making a blessing on something that was brought about through this money. And the Tanya really goes into detail how with so many mitzvahs, every mitzvah that we do, and notice the mitzvahs that we do are all with material things. When I light a candle, so there's the match, there's the fire, there's the candle in front of me, there's the light that it brings. When I make a blessing or do a mitzvah that has to do with items that grow, like the four kinds, the lulav and etrog on Sukkot. Like think of the fields that these items grew in and all the effort that went into planting them. What we do when we make blessings and when we do mitzvahs really has a very, very far-reaching effect. I think it's just me here sitting in my little house, making my little blessing or, doing my little mitzvah. In reality, through the mitzvah that I'm doing and through the blessings that I'm making, I am revealing godliness in all of the things that were connected to bringing about this experience. So going back to making blessings a million times a day, every time I eat food, it's like I have the ability now to reveal godliness in another element of creation because the cup of water I'm drinking now is not a cup of water that anyone else has had the opportunity to drink or make a blessing on. And if I am making a blessing in my car or in my house or, somewhere out there, again, I am elevating the place that I'm in, the area that I'm in, the people who are listening, all of the effort that was involved. And again, chapter 37 is going to break it down for us a little more to kind of show us how actually you and me and all of us together, we can reach every element of the world and of creation. And even more than that, sometimes we feel, and, we often like to talk about how these days, today's generation, oh my, back in the olden days, our grandparents, they were such great and righteous people. Our great grandparents, they were amazing, the holy Jews of a different era. But actually, when you learn this, you realize that everything we do, we're actually building upon all of their efforts. It's not comparing our efforts to their efforts. They may have done really big things because there were a lot bigger things to illuminate and to conquer. We're kind of reaching the end. I mean, what year are we in? 5, 7, who knows? 5786. We're getting very close to that 6,000 mark. That means the vast majority of sparks of godliness in the world have already been illuminated and revealed. There are only little bits left here and there, and and each of us have within our reach different elements. So maybe the little bit of good things that I do don't feel as grand as maybe the things my grandparents did, but it's all part of the same puzzle. They did, when you're doing a puzzle with like kids and you say, okay, you guys do the easy parts that you can do or the big parts, and I'll fill in the parts that you need help with. And then, after they did a bunch of parts, then you kind of come in and like, okay, let me help you. There's the little pieces missing here in this corner. I see there's the little pieces missing there in that corner. That's what we're doing in our days, in our generation, and we're leading towards a space and a time where all of it is going to like come together and we're going to see this incredible revelation. Thoughts, questions, comments? I want to hear from you. Yes, Lorraine.
So, I know I came in late, but part of what we're talking about goes against the concept that we said at the very beginning that, the thing that sets Jews aside from, the monks that go up to the top of the mountain and just pray all day and pray for peace and pray. We're the ones who are supposed to go create peace, and the ones who pray for children to not be sick. We're the doctors that are healing the children and pray for. And so, like, we did this whole thing at the beginning. I'm flashing to while you're saying, say a prayer for the water, say a prayer for the, like, I thought we were supposed to be the doers, not the people up on the mountains going, thank you for, like, I'm a little confused right now. This seems to be butting up against, and that I'm the action chick, that, like, I love it when we finally got to the action chapter. So I'm a little confused right now. And I know I came in
Okay,
midway.
yeah. So you did miss that little piece in the beginning. Firstly, the example I was giving was about making blessing on food. You're right. It's kind of seems like a less actionable example. I probably should have used other examples of, mitzvahs that we do that involve real physical action. But yes, we were saying that
But you've got like doctors on this call, you've got teachers on this call, you've got
100%. The
mental
physical
health workers
action
on
that we
this call.
do, we were saying that the most important way for us to achieve God's plan is through our physical action. And we said even to the extent that vast majority of the mitzvahs are very physically tangible mitzvahs. And
Yes.
even the ones that are a little bit less physical, like saying prayers, we actually try to make them physical by uttering the prayers and moving our lips and audibly reciting them so that there's a physical component. But yes, 100%, vast majority of the mitzvahs do involve physical action because we're dealing with a physical world that we're trying to elevate.
Okay. Okay. I knew I got here late, but when I got here, it was like, so we should be praying over this and pray. And I was
Yeah,
like,
no, so
no, I
you're
thought we
right.
were
I'm
supposed to
sorry.
be
You're right. I
doing
probably
and
should have used a
doing.
different example than making the blessings. But let's think of something else. Let's say if we're not going to say making the blessings, so think about the detail of our life from when we wake up until we go to sleep. How many of those details are prescribed by Jewish law of how we should do it? There's a way to wake up and there's a way to go to sleep and there's a way to start our day and to end our day and to go about our day and to do our business and to shop for food and a way to eat. Like there's a way to do everything. Like, God, seriously, why do you care about all these details? But on the flip side, God is saying every moment of your day, I'm giving you an opportunity to interact with another element of my creation where you can draw down and reveal godliness. So when you interact with people, when you speak to people, when you help people, when you go to work, when you decorate your house, everything that you do could be done in a way that you are elevating all of those things that you're coming into contact with.
Yes. And the whole idea of um, treat your brother as yourself, all the rest is commentary. So that's what runs through my mind too when you say, do this, do this, do this. Yes, there are all these prescribed ways, but more than any of them is how we treat each other, right? More than anything is kindness and goodness and love and compassion and empathy and understanding and all those um neshama ways to live life, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
They don't have to be in contradiction with each other. I can
Okay, I
still,
just came in
you
with the
know,
prayer over water and I was like,
yeah, no, I
oh
can
my
do my
gosh.
mitzvahs and say my prayers and be kind to my neighbor. When there seems to be a clash, when I can either, this is the story that we started with, when I have the opportunity to either say my Yom Kippur prayers or to help a woman who just gave birth and needs help, we all know you drop the prayers and you run and help,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
whenever I can fit them in, I want to fill my day with mitzvahs.
Yeah.
Yes, Arlene.
It's kind of the same question that I had before. When you talk about we're at this year 5,700 and most of what is godly has already come down. We've accomplished bringing the majority of godliness down to this world, because
But we
there's
don't
not that
see it.
much time left. And I may be misstating you somewhat, but in my mind, there's nothing about this world that I think is close to where it would be if if Revelation was coming and we're that close to it. So, and is it just, and you talk about the puzzle that we only see the back of. So is it God who sees all this
Yes.
godliness that we brought down, not the rest of us?
Yes, until payday. It's like when I'm working at a job and I know that at the end of the month I'm getting a paycheck, and every day that I'm working, I know that I'm getting there. I have earned X amount. I still don't see the money. When I get to the day that the payment comes in, it's not the payment that I get on at the end of the month is not like something new. It's something I've been working for this entire month. I've been earning it this entire month. It was just handed to me on that last day.
But
So
typically, you see the fruits of your labor, you know?
So, so to some extent, you know, we do see and we don't. The holiness and godliness we don't necessarily see. It's almost like sleeper cells. Like we're doing it, we're aware. If we study about it, we're aware of it. We don't see it. God sees it, and He says, "Don't worry, I will." It says in the future redemption, when we walk, the stones that we're stepping on will talk to us, and they will say, how did you dare to walk on me? What gave you the authority to walk on me when you weren't engaged in anything holy? You're not any better. When you're not engaged in doing good deeds, you're not any better than me. Who gave you the audacity to be able to step on me? But the stones that we stepped on while engaged in good deeds, they'll say, again, they will be able to talk to us and say, of course, I knew you were doing the right thing. You had every right to be stepping on me. Meaning it's almost like these sleeper cells that we're creating. We don't see when I light the Shabbat candle, I don't see the holiness. I don't see the light. I need to be maybe perhaps a very special soul to be able to really see it. When the redemption comes, I will see. We'll be able to look back and see the sum total of all of our efforts. That's on one hand. On the other hand, and we also touched upon this last time, not from the holiness realm, but from the refinement piece, if we look at it, we do see how the world is, in the big picture, working towards refinement. Meaning, if we look at, honestly, even the fact that Torah is so accessible in the world today. You don't have to be a scholar. You don't have to read Hebrew. You don't have to be living in Israel or walking into a synagogue to study Torah. You can sit in your house in your pajamas in your, little corner of North Dakota with your computer and study Torah, or with your podcast and be studying Torah. That is spiritually, it's a reflection of refinement of the world. The fact that our world reached a place where Torah can be accessed so easily by so many people. Also, we talk about the advancements in, food. What do they say? I think they say the last, I'm trying to remember what the exact term was, but like the last, I think in like the year 1990 or in the year 2000, there was a statement that came out that this was the first decade in history that more people died of overeating than of undereating. That's, I mean, it has its own problems, but historically, we're getting to a place. The fact that vast majority of people in this world are not are not on the verge of starvation, that there is abundance, there's general abundance. Yes, of course, there are people that are struggling and suffering, but most people today don't worry about where the next piece of bread will come from. Otherwise, I cannot live another day because I don't have a piece of bread to eat. Maybe I want to have better bread. Maybe I want to have a better job. Maybe I want to have better housing conditions. But in general, in the big picture, it's a very different world than it was a few thousand years ago. The fact that charity is a worldwide concept that people are aware of and people celebrate the idea of giving charity, that you have the, what do they call it? The millionaire pledge, that they have all these multimillionaires signing that they will, dedicate a big percentage of their fortune or all of their fortune in their lifetime to help, educational institutions and to help eliminate poverty and all of these things. 1,000 years ago, even 500 years ago or less, who ever heard of such a concept? People who had money, empires, kings and queens who had money. It was money to be kept in storehouses, to be passed down to the next generation, the next generation, and the next. Who cared about the poor guy in the street? So in many ways, if you look at it, the world is generally, we have a ways to go. The world is not perfect in any way, but our world does reflect a tremendous, many steps forward towards a place where it could be completely refined. Even talk about, wars. And yes, wars exist. And, we're not going to get into, politics here of people starting wars and entering wars. But the vast majority of people in the world aren't worried, even if their country is at war. Vast majority of people don't have to worry about some soldiers barging into my house tomorrow and, kicking the family out and letting us know that right now they have conquered our territory and go figure out where you're going to live. I mean, that's what our ancestors did just 100 years ago. This is what they faced. Most people were worried on a day-to-day basis. Where am I going to live tomorrow? Am I going to have where to live? Am I going to have where to eat? Am I going to be kicked out? Is my country even going to be my country? Is it going to be owned now by a different country? So in many ways, and also, if you look at the scientific advances and technological advances, our world, I mean, the average person, the average American child today has at their fingertips more than the kings and queens of yesteryear could dream of in their lifetime. So again, when I focus on the details, there's a lot that we still need to do. But in the big picture, the world is moving forward. And the world is moving towards a place where it is becoming a better place. It will become a better place. And of course, there's a lot of work to do, which is why the redemption is not here yet. That's on us. We have to work on refining it and making it better and bringing goodness and kindness into the world. But what's fascinating is when you start realizing that every action that I take is not just, oh, it's so nice, like, let's be nice people. But actually, every good deed that I do, whether it's a general good deed, of just being kind to people, or it's, as a Jewish person, a mitzvah, like, giving charity, lighting my candle, wrapping tefillin, whatever the mitzvah is. Every single one of those is literally like putting another piece to the puzzle and helping bring the world towards the place where it needs to be ultimately. This reminds me of, I may have shared this in the past. There's when the Lubavitcher Rebbe was talking a lot in the early 90s about the future redemption, and it's on us. Everyone needs to get involved in bringing the future redemption. Jews by doing mitzvahs, non-Jews by bringing goodness and kindness into the world and just being good people. And at first glance, if you didn't like study Tanya or understand it, it just sounds like, oh, so nice. When everyone will be nice and good, we'll get the big class pizza party and we'll have this ultimate redemption. But from the Rebbe's perspective, coming from the Tanya's perspective, it's like, no, every deed you do, whether it's known or unknown, whether it's in your house or out in public, every deed you do is bringing us closer. And he so wanted us to get there. He was like watching the ball getting towards the goal and just encouraging, come on, one more mitzvah, one more thing, just do it, just do it. There's a clip, I actually have it open in another tab here, where CNN came to interview the Rebbe. They're like, we heard that the Rebbe's talking about the redemption. We're going to come and ask the Rebbe what message he has to the world. And they were waiting for some like profound message of like, what's this great rabbi going to tell the world about bringing about the redemption? And the Rebbe, in all sincerity, looks at the cameraman and says, goodness and kindness. But like in all sincerity, not like this euphemism. It's like for real, every act, goodness and kindness. And then he hands $1 to every one of the camera crew, and then another $1, like give charity, like do another good deed. Every deed that we will collectively do is gonna bring us there, and together we can really make it happen. Yes, Sarah.
Okay, in the beginning, Arlene asked a question about for whom. So we're supposed to be making a reveal of godliness, but for whom? Like, and I'm assuming that's like who's the audience? Is that
Right? Yeah.
okay? So I just heard you say it again that Jews have 613 commandments basically that we have as a way that's our due, that's our tool to bring holiness into the world. And I think, if I remember correctly, that non-Jews have their 7, and that those are their things to bring holiness into the world.
The non-Jews are tasked with making the world a good place, refining the world, goodness, kindness, morality. That's like the baseline for all of humanity, to be good people and create a good world. The Jews, of course, we need to do that. But beyond that, we're tasked with drawing down godliness specifically. Lighting your Shabbat candles, you're drawing down godliness. Now, you need a world to be refined to a certain degree for the godliness to be able to take and stay in the world. So in a way, we're all partners in it together. The non-Jews are all part of refining the world, being good people, educating people to bring morality, to bring goodness and kindness to the world. And as Jewish people, we have the unique task of those specific holy tasks in the 613 commandments.
And did it say something about the house of Jacob that one will be up and the other will be down?
No, there's a quote that says the non-Jews will turn to us, and it says, they will tell us, house of Jacob, let us walk in the light of God. So the Zohar asks, who's talking to the house of Jacob? I mean, is it Jewish people saying, we're the house of Jacob? That's the Jewish people. So who's going to be telling us, let us walk in the light of God? Clearly, that's referring to the nations, meaning that the nations of the world will look at us and say, come on, Jews, we want to do this. Show us this light that you've been bringing into the world. And that's what the Tanya uses as like a proof that we are drawing down the light, but for the entire world, including the non-Jews.
Okay, so it's not condescending at all, actually. It's quite unifying.
100%. I think it's so powerful. It's telling us that every mitzvah we do yeah, on some level, I'm doing it for myself, but beyond that, in the big picture, every mitzvah that I do is bringing this entire world for me, for my family, for my community, for the world at large, for the Jewish people, for the non-Jewish people. Everything I do is bringing the world closer to its ultimate goal, which if we go back to the original question we started with, I think in chapter 35, where what's the purpose? If it's always a struggle, if I'm never going to become a tzaddik, if I'm never going to be a perfect person, what's the point of every time I wake up in the morning and I'm struggling to do the right thing? And here's like, what do you mean? Every time you make a right choice, forget your personal victory. It's a victory for the world. You're bringing the entire world closer to its ultimate purpose. I know that we're past time. I want to conclude with a really quick story about the author of the Tanya, whose yahrzeit is tonight. This is a very famous story where he was once sitting and I guess it was one of his grandkids came crying, walked into the room crying and crying. And he said, what happened? Why are you so sad? He said, well, Zadie, you don't understand. All the kids were playing and the kids crying. And he's like, tell me about the game. What were you guys playing? And the child's explaining that they were playing a game called hide and seek. And one person's it, and all the kids need to try to find a hiding place. And whoever finds the best hiding place is the winner, because if you're the one who's found last, then you win the game. So he said, so why are you crying? He said, because I found such a good hiding place. And the person who was it wasn't able to find me. So he said, so great, that means you're the winner. He's like, no, Zadie, you don't understand. They couldn't find me, and after a while, they just gave up. They stopped looking for me, and all the kids just stopped the game, and they all went to eat and play a different game. So the child was devastated that the kids forgot what the goal of the game was, and they stopped searching. And the Alter Rebbe turned to the grandchild and said, you think you have problems. God has exactly the same problem. He says, I hid myself within creation, and I tasked my people with find me, find the light. Don't get lost in the klipa, in the shell. Don't get lost in in the hustle and bustle and all the other external things. Find me. And you know what? They forget to search, and they start, searching for other things that are not really what I want them to be focused on. And God's sitting there and waiting for us to get back to the game and find him and reveal him in the world. So I thought that was a good story to close with. God willing, next week we will get into chapter 37 and really kind of break down in detail how it is that we piece together this future redemption. Anyone who has to go, have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week. Good to see you, Lisa. And anyone who wanted to stay on, I saw there was a question. Feel free to stay on. Harriet, you want to say something?
I'll hold it till next time.
You sure?
I'm sure.
All right.
But thanks.
Okay. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.